Our show with your host, Peter Mingils.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You're listening to us on Building Fortunes Radio. It's www.buildingfortunesradio.com. For anybody that's kind of new and maybe hearing my voice for the first time, my name is Peter Mingils. We started Building Fortunes Radio back in 2012, believe it or not. So it's been a long time. I guess that's about 8 years now. And we actually started to do some stuff on buildingfortunesradio.com. And when I was doing that, I wanted to make sure that we had a platform to be able to have people that were really good at doing lots of things on our Building Fortunes Radio show. Well, I ran across a gentleman named Ray Gebauer many years before that, probably maybe even 10 years before that. And I always knew that Ray was a good guy. And he ran across my desk sometime a couple of years ago. And I said, you know, I really should catch up with Ray and find out what he's doing. And then not only that, invite him to be a guest on our radio show because I know that he's a good guy, got a great moral compass, steering people in the right direction, knows a ton about a lot of topics, whether it's finances or whether it's building a home-based business or whether it's health and nutrition, and overall just a really good guy. And I knew that he always studied a lot for himself to be able to help you as well. So we started to do this radio show, and when we started it, we put it together on buildingfortunesradio.com/Ray-Gebauer. So you'll be able to see it or listen to it, rather, if you go to buildingfortunesradio.com/Ray-Gebauer. Recently, we've been kind of turning these audios into movies and then putting them up on Twitch TV and Facebook, you know, live, and YouTube and a few others. So we've actually done that as well. So we've shortened these down to about 30 minutes. So this way it'll play on the different platforms that we restream on, and you'll be able to catch Ray Gebauer all over the place. So if you're looking for a great mentor, someone to work with and learn from, you want to work with a good friend of ours, his name is always Ray Gebauer. Ray, thanks for being here on your own radio show.
Well, thank you, Peter. I'm, as always, happy to be here and have a platform to share some thoughts and insights that hopefully can make a positive difference, to enrich someone's life. And because I think we all want the same thing. We want to have a better life. We would like the rest of our life to be the best of our life. But the reality is, for a lot of people, they're on a slippery slope going downhill, picking up speed, going the wrong direction. And you can't help everybody, but those who will pay attention and be willing to accept some help and guidance and coaching, many times you can turn people's lives around. People can get their life back, not just with their health, physical health, but their spiritual health, their emotional health, their financial health. I think it was just last week I spoke on this shocking fact that 78% of working adults, so that's not even counting seniors and people on welfare and Social Security, but 78% of working adults are living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, imagine the stress of that. I mean, that might be you. And I pointed out the fact that and from the studies of what kind of stress impacts you the most, it's most damaging. They discovered from all the different sources of stress, the one that was most damaging, that most increased the risk of death, was stress from, my acronym was ATMS, against too much stress. Well, more specifically, it was not having enough money. So when you don't have enough money, that kind of stress is more damaging than stress from your job or marriage or work or anything else, from health issues. So I made a point last week. I'm against poverty. I'm against stress, at least stress overload. I'm against people having to not having a good option to escape that emotional prison or even financial prison, living paycheck to paycheck. So along that line, today, to address some of the deeper issues underlying that dynamic, some people are living paycheck to paycheck emotionally too. There's a lot of stress and depression, increasing levels of suicide, with the concerns about the pandemic. So I have some ideas that I think can help you, and you could, if you like the ideas, and you can share them with others and help others. So I formulated this in a formula called the 3F formula. So 3 F words that are all positive, and I think can make a meaningful, significant difference for you. But before, just for fun and games, before I launch into that, I'm going to give Peter a chance to swing the bat 3 times and see if he can guess one of the F's that I'm having in mind to share about. So go ahead, Peter. Give it your best shot.
That's right. So going for F's. Well, first of all, I'm going to take there's one of them going to be in there. I'm sure it's going to be a gimme, which is the fun word. So, but I'm going to leave that one second. So the first one is fear. So meaning learn how to overcome your fears. So that's going to be one of them. Next is going to be find. This is going to be a simple one, short letters. Find, meaning find a way, be that go-getter. And the last one is fun. Make sure you have some fun while you're doing it. So fear, find, and fun are my 3 words. So I'm betting I got at least one right.
You're right. You got one right.
So I get the right one right.
Yep. You got the first one right. Yeah. Had a little bit of fear that you're going to miss all 3, but you got one. So, without maybe creating too much controversy here, I just want to mention the fact that it's my personal belief. I'm convinced from my research and listening to a lot of doctors that that's a real pandemic. There is a real pandemic, and I would say I've concluded the only real pandemic is fear. Because a pandemic generally means like a lot of people are dying. Like the Black Plague, that 30 to 50% of the population who died in Europe back a long time ago. And the so-called Spanish flu, which is most likely caused by introducing radar, 50 million people died. I mean, that's a lot of deaths. Well, this year, how many more people have died than last year? Actually, less people. So where's the pandemic? So they're just relabeling all these deaths as I'm calling it COVID-19. But the real pandemic that is very, very serious and very contagious is the fear itself. I know a lot of people like to use the acronym, the fear is evidence appearing real. And in this case, that somewhat applies, I think, but that's not what fear really is. Fear is an emotion, and it has nothing to do with evidence. False evidence can produce fear, or false evidence could produce a sense of security. It could go either way. But so let's dive into this 4-letter F word that's killing so many people. Fear really suppresses your immune system if it's prolonged. Now, ultimately, fear is actually a very good, healthy emotion. There's nothing wrong with fear. It's a natural, automatic response when we anticipate or believe that some kind of pain is on the way. So it's really anticipation of pain that creates the emotion of fear. That's really important because that's what keeps us alive. That's part of our survival. You have to have fear at the right time. In other words, so you can not make stupid mistakes. Like if someone had no fear, then you can just drive through every stop sign, every red light, and go whatever speed you wanted because you have no fear. Well, that'd be reckless and sort of foolish because it's a matter of time you come to a dead stop, right? So you have to have appropriate fear. And even if fear is appropriate, like you're walking down a trail and you see a mountain lion, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel fear. Well, that's good because now you're a little more empowered. You have more adrenaline to hopefully make your escape. So fear comes in useful. But even if, in that case, you should have fear. It's in your favor. But prolonged fear, even if it's for a legitimate reason, is still damaging. It's like too much of a good thing. Like salt. We all need salt. If you don't get enough salt, you get weak. If you don't get any salt, you get so weak that you will die 100% of the time. But you have to have salt. But if you have too much salt, that's going to hurt you too. Same thing with fear. In fact, from a biblical perspective, what does it say is the beginning of wisdom? It's fear. It's the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. It says you work out your salvation with fear and trembling. So there's a proper place and balance for fear, not to have a spirit of fear and live in fear all the time, because that's going to ruin your life. So that's what this concern about the pandemic has done, is artificially instills fear in people. And when you have prolonged fear, whether it's a real danger or not, which I don't think it's even a real danger, but that doesn't matter at this point. The point is, prolonged fear is very damaging to your. That leads to anxiety, which is another form of fear, or depression, or maybe even anger. And it leads to a lowered immune system, so you're more likely to get heart disease and cancer. Just like the anxiety from not having enough money, that increases your risk of dying of a fatal heart attack by 13 times. 1,300% more chance of dying of a heart attack from the anxiety and fear of not having enough money. So fear is important and necessary, but it's also dangerous, especially if it's prolonged. So you got to find the balance. It's not, like I said, it's reckless to think, well, you can be fearless. Nobody can be fearless. It's just one of the 5 basic emotions that are important. But here's the issue tonight. There's way too much fear. It's like there's too much air pollution, too much water pollution, too many chemicals on the food. There's too much blind faith in people trusting the so-called experts and getting led astray. So what do you do about too much fear? First of all, you have to realize there's nothing wrong with the fear itself, like I said, but it's the right timing and how long it goes and learning how to deal with it appropriately. So if you are caught in a state of fear, whether it's because you're concerned about a virus or you don't have enough money, or it's a relationship or a health issue, say you got cancer, or you have a heart failure, fear is normal and natural, but if you live in fear, it's just going to make everything worse. So where does fear come from? It's an emotion, it's an energy, and it is contagious. If you're around a bunch of people that are happy, you tend to be happy. If you're around people that are depressed, you catch that, you become depressed. If you're around people who have anxiety or fear or worry, that it infects you. So, and you infect others with whatever emotions you have. So it isn't just about yourself, but how you affect others. So part of overcoming excess fear, prolonged fear, is one thing is just associate more with people who don't have fear, and that will automatically diminish your own fear. And realize that the source of fear is always one thing. It's our imagination. Unless you're observing something that's actually dangerous, like if you walk along and you see a poisonous snake, or you see a car swerving into your lane about to create a head-on collision, well, you're going to feel fear. But it's an anticipation of pain that causes the emotion of fear. But other than something that's like immediate, fear is based on our anticipation of something in the future, especially if it's prolonged fear. If you have fear of the virus, if fear of what's going to happen if you can't make your house payment, you're going to lose your house. Or say your child's playing around with drugs or whatever, and you're afraid of what's going to happen with them. So fear always comes out of your imagination. So does the antidote, which I'm going to get to here. That's the third word here. But so fear is something. So to diminish or eliminate the fear, you have to change your perspective of the future, because fear is anticipation of pain. The opposite is anticipation of gain. So when you take a view of the future where you anticipate that things are going to be good or they're going to resolve, then the natural automatic emotion when you anticipate something good is happiness or joy. So plus you can take the emotion of fear and sort of transmute it and turn it into excitement. Because excitement is also based on uncertainty, as anticipation of good, something good. And there's, like, if you're going to get in front of some people and speak and you have anxiety and fear, there's a way to switch that in your brain and make that fear excitement. But it all has to do with how you view the situation. What makes fear the worst and what really feeds the fear is when you anticipate pain and on top of that, you don't believe you're going to be able to handle it. See, if something is dangerous, let's say you're walking down an alley and three of these guys come up here with knives and say, hey, we're going to take all your money and then we're going to kill you because we like to kill people. So how are you going to feel? Well, most likely you're going to have some fear, like, oh, no. But if you were a competent, highly skilled martial artist, knew karate and all that stuff, how are you going to feel? You say, oh, this is going to be fun. Come on, bring it on, and you're going to be happy because you're going to have a good fight and you know what's going to happen, and they'll be sorry they ever messed with you because you don't feel helpless. But if you feel helpless, then that really amplifies and exaggerates the fear. So that's another clue of how to get out of excess fear. You've got to increase your confidence that you can handle this. And if it's over your head and you don't think you can handle it, then you get help. If you find fire in your house, if it's a small fire, you're not going to be that afraid. Oh, I got to put that fire out, the fire on the stove or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But if it gets out of hand more than you can handle, then the fear goes through the roof. And, of course, you call the fire department and all that. Okay, I spent too much time on the first letter, fear. But anyway, so let's go to the second word, which is somewhat related. In some ways, it's not really related, but it's really important because, especially if you are endeavoring to achieve something, particularly a home-based business, this F word is a showstopper for a lot of people, and that's the word failure. And we talk about fear of failure. People don't like the pain of failing, so they decide, well, I won't even play, but that way I can avoid the fear, or the pain of failure. Well, here's a much better way to frame that and look at it that's really more accurate. I mean, let's say your goal is you want to have 10 sales this month. Now, so if you don't get those 10 sales, say you get 8 or 9. So you could say, well, I failed. Technically, that's true, but is that a useful way of looking at it? Because failure carries with it a lot of negative emotions, and we tend to personalize that. If I failed, then I start to slide over the line and start to think I am a failure. So here's a better way to think of it. Instead of using that F word of failure or failed, you say, I didn't get the results that I expected. So you're basically saying the same thing, but now you're keeping it neutral. And, who says if the so-called failure was necessarily even the bad thing? It might, in the long run, be a good thing. So you don't even know. So you want to avoid the negativity, the stigma attached to the word failure, and just stop using that word. Don't use that F word, failure. You say, I didn't get the results I expected. Or better yet, you say, I didn't get the results I expected yet. And that keeps you from personalizing this against yourself, diminishing, decreasing your sense of self-esteem and confidence. So stop saying failure or failed, and instead say, I just didn't get the results I wanted. And when you succeed, it's the opposite. When you succeed, you say, well, I got the results I wanted. So let's move on, since I have limited time, to the third word here. And by the way, a lot of failure or not getting the results that you want is fueled by fear, because people are afraid to try because they anticipate the pain of not getting the results that they want. So the fear of failure, not getting results, is part of why people don't get results, because they don't try or they give up too soon. But anyway, let's move on to the third word. This is the most important word, because this is really the answer to the problem of too much fear or inappropriate fear. It's basically the opposite of fear. Fear is anticipation of pain. Well, it's not anticipation. It's the emotion that comes from anticipation of pain or loss. The antidote, which is the opposite, is anticipation of gain instead of pain. And so the best word I like to use to describe that is faith. Not faith in a religious or spiritual sense, but faith meaning confidence or belief. Like if you sit down on a chair without thoroughly checking to make sure it's solid and holds you up, we call that faith. So you're anticipating something good is going to happen. In that case, you're anticipating the chair is going to hold you up. So, when you go to the airport to get on the flight to Hawaii, you anticipate, gain that, you'll be able to get on the plane. It's going to get there where you want to go and soft landing, and it's going to be a good time. So that's faith, when you anticipate something good. So when you anticipate something good or gain versus pain, that automatically creates the opposite emotion from fear, which is joy or happiness. So if you are already into fear or anxiety or worry, the way to get out of it is to switch your perspective from anticipating the pain to anticipating the gains or something good. In fact, there's a very popular verse in the Bible, Romans 8:28. It says that God is able to make all things work together for the good for those who love Him. And so that's what faith is. It's anticipating things getting better. Now, do things always get better? No, sometimes they just keep getting worse for a while, and it's like a test. And what doesn't kill you can make you stronger. But in the long run, even though it may still be getting worse and you still may lose your house, you got to stand in faith versus in fear. The Scripture says God has not given us a spirit of fear. That's a mindset of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So we want to be coming from a position or posture of faith or confidence. That's the same thing. Or optimism, which is, I think, the same thing. Optimism is a view of the future, like an optical lens. That means viewing, something seeing. So it's seeing the future using your imagination, but viewing it, anticipating good. So both fear and faith come from the same source, our imagination. We anticipate something. We see something in our mind before it happens, and we come to a conclusion it's going to be good or bad. And if we anticipate something bad, especially if we think it's more than we can handle, then there's a lot of fear. But if you anticipate this is going to be good, like when I was in high school, I was on the wrestling team. I love wrestling. But if I was going to a wrestling match and I saw this guy, he's like, oh man, this guy's just going to crush me. I would start having some fear. But if I go in this match and say, hey, I can beat this guy. This is going to be fun. I'm going to pin this dude. Then that I'm anticipating gain. I'm going to be happy and excited. So it depends all on your perspective. So you're looking at your business, for example. How do you feel about your business? Are you anticipating that you're not going to get the results you want or the failure? Or are you anticipating, hey, I'm unstoppable. It's just a matter of time. Maybe I keep, fumbling the ball and stumbling and making mistakes and getting distracted. But in the end, I'm going to win. I'm going to build this. I'm going to get up to $1,000 a month, then $1,000 a week, maybe up to $1 million a year. So you've got to hold that vision, anticipating gain. You got to have a dream. And then, of course, you have to act on it. So the other thing about faith that I think fakes people out is fake faith. Fake faith, or not real faith, is when you say you believe something and that's it. That's not really faith. Faith, like the Bible says, faith without works is dead. In other words, it's dead faith. Fake faith, if your actions are not consistent with faith or consistent with your confidence or your belief. Say, I'm going to do this, but if you don't, then it wasn't really faith or confidence. It was just you were just saying it. Now, it starts with saying it, even if you're not totally sure. That's better than saying, I'm not going to try. but if your behavior and actions are not consistent with what you say you're going to do, your faith, well, then your faith is really pretty weak or not really there at all. So one of the ways to build up your faith, and I'm running out of time here, is to do some time travel in all three time zones, past, present, and future. So you go back and remember, you recall memories where you've had success and you achieved something and you were excited and you celebrated in the past. Make a list of like 10 achievements. And that reinforces your confidence or faith that you can do it again because you've already had success in the past. And then move into the present. What do you have going for you right now that's in your favor, that moves the odds in your favor? And make a list of those, maybe 10 things, 10, 20 things that you got going for you now that help you to get to where you want to go. That, again, will bolster your faith or confidence, your optimism. And then third, you want to travel back to the future using your imagination and play in your dream, visualize, see how it feels to have achieved what you want to achieve. You're not just chasing the dream, but now you've arrived and you've done it, and you're enjoying being in the promised land, and you've achieved it. So you got to visualize that, and that's just one thing, but, a list of things, maybe 10 things that you love to achieve in your lifetime, and think about how that would feel. Maybe it includes being on the beaches in Hawaii, and that increases your confidence or faith right now, which diminishes any fear. So fear has its place, but make sure it's in the right place, the last place, and you got to be living by faith, confidence, and optimism if you want to get to where you want to go and have a happier life in the meantime. Okay, that's it for tonight. Peter, thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Real quick, give them your access so they can get in touch with you. You got 30 seconds.
Good idea. So, okay, so call me, text me anytime at this number, 360-206-9266. So 360-206-9266, and we can have a conversation for possibilities, see if I can help you, maybe clear some things up, get out of fear, more into faith, and help you with your current business, or maybe you want to join me in what I'm doing because that's really exciting, and I'm looking for people to work with, and I have time right now, and
we'll see you next week.
So that's how you get home.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the designated Building Fortunes Radio segment with Peter Mingils. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website for our featured segments. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for. So spread the word, tell a friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world.